The AIM-listed investment company Mindflair have this morning announced that one of their investments has received a €48 million investment from Bloom Equity, Ireland's strategic investment fund, and Goodbody Capital. Here to talk us through it is their director, Nick Lee. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on early in the morning like this. Now, Mindflare, benefited from six, I believe, SVV1 portfolio realizations in recent times, with CameraMatics being the most recent. Notably, Mindflare retains an ongoing shareholding in its CameraMatics as it enters the next phase of growth. Can you explain what CameraMatics does? And what's happened in this transaction, and what does it mean for shareholders?
Of course. So CameraMatics really has an artificial intelligence platform, really helping transport fleet managers to reduce risk, increase driver safety, and also get to grips with the whole sort of growing industry governance that's sort of growing up in this area. It's actually got surprising sort of width for a smaller company in this sort of space, and that it's really got operations not only in the UK and Ireland, but across Europe, and also, very interestingly, in the US, which is always historically, a difficult sort of market to crack for the Europeans. And I think, last count, it employs probably 150 people across various offices throughout the world. Also, recently, it's had some really interesting contract wins. So it's had one with Royal Mail, Calagas, Wolsey, and other quite well-known companies. So that's really CameraMatics. In terms of what has really happened here is that a new investor group has agreed to invest what is really a very significant sum of around 48 million euros, really to focus on supporting the expansion of the business. Now, the business model is one that can be a little bit cash hungry in the initial stages of when you win a new contract. So the beauty with this transaction is that this funding really secures the company's growth plans in the short to medium term. So it's an excellent thing for the company to have managed to have won. I mean, what this really means for practically for Mindflair is that the transaction both provides a substantial cash inflow to us, which that's great, circa 600,000 rather euros, but also, and I think just as importantly, leaves us with a shareholding in a company which has significant funding in place and is able to support its expansion without the need for further investment. So to my mind, it really enhances the original CameraMatics investment.
Of course, this isn't the first realization you've had. There was, I believe, Get Visibility as well more recently. So, Mindfully, you now find yourself in a debt-free position with strengthened balance sheet. What does actually mean on practical terms or the day-to-day for the business and for, I suppose, more importantly for shareholders? How should they now be looking at Mindfully?
Well, it's always a good thing for a small listed company to be debt free with cash on the balance sheet. What I would also say is this is a really good example of how our business model is really designed to work. And that is really to take and recycle capital from the investments in the earlier funds in order to have the funds available to invest in sort of new opportunities. So in a way, when this model works, we're in a position where we effectively generating funds internally for investment rather than having to have recourse to shareholders.
Well, obviously, and this is now with sort of, I'm looking at the SVV model, the portfolio in particular here, and clearly, you've had the sort of realization with Get Visibility, and today we know with CameraMatics. There's clearly a pattern. There's obviously the model is obviously working. How would you describe the pattern or the model as is currently working to a new investor? So talk me through what you.
Well, this is really what I've just sort of run through, which is, the concept of being able to recycle capital. So, at the moment we have got Fund One, which is a number of years old. It is not making any new investments. We're just harvesting the investments that we've got. That's producing capital, and then Funds Two and Three particularly Fund Two, which is probably the most active at the moment, where you've got the British Business Bank as a cornerstone investor, and that's probably the biggest of the fund. The recycling of the capital enables us to then deploy capital in that second growing fund, as I say, without having to go and raise money from shareholders, because a company like Mindflair is only really going to generate income from realizations, because that's the model.
And I suppose with a company like this is often viewed by investors being one of these sort of slow harvesting companies that, you've got to wait around for the next sort of realization. But, mindfully, I believe you've had six now in the last couple of years. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's been, I think the total, and that's just in SVV1, so the first fund. So there's
Mhm.
been six cash realizations from the fund. Most of those money has come out to the limited partners. One, I think we had, we left it in just to pay for a cash call that was about to come up. So it's net, it's the same thing. Um, and Yeah, I mean that is how you want this model to work. You want the realizations coming through, and now we're in a position where we'll call it a harvesting fund, and then two investing funds. So they're all in the right sort of cycle.
Now, you've not raised any money since December 2024, I believe. So that's nearly 2 years. How's the company managing? I mean, you've obviously got your cash on the balance sheet and everything, but what does that say about your cash discipline? I mean, you must be quite pleased with it.
Yes, and I mean, we're a small team. We try and keep our costs down, and that seems to have been working pretty well to date.
So you're well bootstrapped then, Nick.
Yeah, I think so.
And talk to me a little bit more about the actual portfolio itself and its breadth. I mean, you've got indirect exposure to around 25, 26 active AI focused private companies out there, and that's across all three SVV funds then, am I correct?
Yeah,
So I don't, without going into the valuations, because I
yeah,
appreciate you can't go into depth on
no,
that kind of thing, but what kind of businesses are there? What
okay,
excites you most right now,
right.
certainly in the AI field?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the sort of the overall portfolio is quite an interesting thing or an interesting way for a small investor to get exposure to the AI sector in a flexible, low risk, to the degree that these things can be low risk, but we can get the risk down by having a portfolio, and at the same time piggyback on the AI expertise that is there at Shore Value Ventures. And I think a number of the companies within, let's say, the second fund are really, they're not sort of vague theoretical companies doing vague theoretical things. A number of them are actually there trying to solve real life problems. So if I give you an example, and obviously this is often like being asked, which child is your favorite? It's not an easy question sometimes. So I'll give you a couple of the ones that I sort of quite like. So I think the first one is a company called Stylus. So Stylus is really there to reduce teacher workload and make exam marking more reliable using an AI platform. And I'm a governor at a large academy, and workload now is probably one of the biggest issues for teachers. So anything we can do to, reduce workload makes a lot of sense. And as a result, the take up in the market has been pretty interesting. And then the other good example is a company called Visgard, which is involved in basically operating drones, and again very relevant to what's going on today in the defence and security industries. And this platform is able to really improve detection capabilities, reduce again operator workload so they can be more efficient and effective, and again other applications. I mean, they quite recently got a pilot with a couple of UK prisons to work on counter drone measures. So I would say the theme is that a number of the companies in this fund are sort of solving real life problems, which I think is very interesting.
That is interesting indeed. Well, Nick, thank you so much for your time this morning, and good luck. I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Yeah, look forward to telling you more about what's going on at Mindflair.
Thank you.